Magic and Mystery in Tibet by Alexandra David-Neel. In connection with these kind of visualizations or thought form creations, I relate a few phenomena which I have witnessed myself. 1. A young Tibetan who was in my service went to see his family. I had granted him 3 weeks' leave, after which he was to purchase a food supply, engage porters to carry the loads across the hills, and come back with the caravan. Most likely, the fellow had a good time with his people. 2 months elapsed, and still he did not return. I thought he had definitely left me. Then I saw him one night in a dream. He arrived at my place, clad in a somewhat unusual fashion, wearing a sun hat of foreign shape. He had never worn such a hat. The next morning, one of my servants came to me in haste. "Wang Du has come back," he told me. "I've just seen him down the hill." The coincidence was strange. I went out of my room to look at the traveler. The place where I stood dominated a valley. I distinctly saw Wang Du. He was dressed exactly as I had seen him in my dream. He was alone and walking slowly up the path that wound up the hill slope. I remarked that he had no luggage with him, and that the servant who was next to me answered, "Wang Du has walked ahead. The load carriers must be following." We both continued to observe the man. He reached a small shorten, Chorten, with 2 dots over the O, walked behind it, and did not reappear. The base of this shorten was a cube built in stone, less than 3 feet high, and from its needle-shaped top to the ground, the small monument was no more than 7 feet high. There was no cavity in it. Moreover, the shorten was completely isolated. There were neither houses nor trees, nor undulations, nor anything that could provide a hiding in the vicinity. My servant and I believed that Wang Du was resting for a while under the shade of the shorten. But as time went on, without his reappearing, I inspected the ground round the monument with my field glasses, but discovered nobody. Very much puzzled, I sent 2 of my servants down to search for the boy. I followed their movements with the glasses, but no trace was to be found of Wang Du or of anyone else. The same day, a little before dusk, a young man appeared in the valley with his caravan. He wore the very same dress and the foreign sun hat which I had seen in my dream and in the morning vision. Without giving him or the load carriers time to speak with my servants and hear about the phenomenon, I immediately questioned them. From their answers, I learned that all of them had spent the previous night in a place too far distant from my dwelling for anyone to reach the latter in the morning. It was also clearly stated that Wang Du had continually walked with the party. During the following weeks, I was able to verify the accuracy of the men's declarations in inquiring about the time of the caravan's departure at the few last stages where the porters were changed. It was proved that they had all spoken the truth and had left the stage together with Wang Du, as they had said. Number 2. A Tibetan painter, a fervent worshipper of the wrathful deities, who took a peculiar delight in drawing their terrible forms, came one afternoon to pay me a visit. I noticed behind him the somewhat nebulous shape of one of the fantastic beings which so often appeared in his paintings. I made a startled gesture, and the astonished artist took a few steps towards me, asking what was the matter. I noticed that the phantom did not follow him, and quickly thrusting my visitor aside, I walked to the apparition with one arm stretched out in front of me. My hand reached the foggy form. I felt as if touching a soft object, whose substance gave way under the slight push, and the vision vanished. The painter confessed, in answer to my questions, that he had been performing a dubta rite during the last few weeks, calling on the deity whose form I had dimly perceived, and that very day he had worked the whole morning on a painting of the same deity. In fact, The Tibetan's thoughts were entirely concentrated on the deity, whose help he wished to secure for a rather mischievous undertaking. He himself had not seen the phantom. In these two cases, the phenomenon was produced without the conscious cooperation of its author, or, as a mystic Lama remarked, Wang Du and the painter could hardly be termed the authors of the phenomena. They were but one cause, maybe the principal one, amongst the various causes which had brought them about. Number 3. The third strange occurrence I have to relate belongs to the category of phenomena which are voluntarily produced. The fact that the apparition appears in the likeness of the Lama who caused it must not lead us to think that he projected a subtle double of himself. This is not the opinion of advanced adepts in Tibetan secret lore. According to them, such phantoms are tulpas, magic formations generated by a powerful concentration of thought. As it had been repeatedly stated in the preceding chapters, any forms may be visualized through that process. At that time, I was camping near Punag, Ritod, in Kham, Kham. One afternoon, I was with my cook in a hut, which we used as a kitchen. The boy asked me for some provisions. I answered, "Come with me to my tent, and you can take what you need out of the boxes." We walked out, and when nearing the tent, we both saw a hermit Lama seated on a folding chair next to the camp table. This did not surprise us because the Lama often came to talk to me. The cook only said, "Rinpoche is here. I must go and make tea for him at once. I will take the provisions later on." I replied, "All right, make tea and bring it to us." The man turned back, and I continued to walk straight towards the Lama, looking at him all the time while he remained seated motionless. When I was only a few steps from the tent, a flimsy veil of mist seemed to open before it, like a curtain that it slowly pulled aside, and suddenly I did not see the Lama any more. He had vanished. A little later the cook came, bringing tea. He was surprised to see me alone. As I did not like to frighten him, I said, "Rinpoche only wanted to give me a message. He had no time to stay to tea."